Hey, last one. We're on the cuffs. After this, that's it, it's done. I'm gonna do that for both of them. Now just fold them over so the interfacing's on the inside. Fold it in half and pin, and then we're just going to stitch a top stitch and a double stitch. I do not believe it fits, but we're going to give it a shot. Hey, look at that, it fits. Nice. And just stitch all the way around. No, same thing for the other cuff. And we're going to mark 2 inches in either direction from the center seam. This gets pinned at 1. You want it pretty close to that seam there, so right about there. The other side gets this piece of Velcro. I'm going to line them up so that the Velcro matches when everything's put over, which is roughly 1 inch down. If they're a little off, it's Velcro, it's alright. Then you do the exact opposite on the other one. So we'll set this one here. We go to this one, 2 inches in either direction, roughly 1 inch down. We pin this one here. Pin this here. Notice the finish seam is facing each other, so you have a left and a right. It's super important at this point. So we're going to do a zigzag stitch right along the edge to lock the cuff in. This is set to a 4, which is my zigzag, 1.4 for my stitch length, and 5 on the width. So we're going for a pretty aggressively wide stitch here. You want to make sure you do not accidentally sew the other side. It's going to go back and forth. We're going to do that to both. Same stitch, other cuff. Now what we're going to do is fold this over and pin. We want to make sure that there's about a 1/4 to 1/2 inch overlap. I hope if you can see that, huh? So we want to make sure there's a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch overlap here. What that does is when we stitch the top stitching on, it makes sure that everything is locked in place. Now for this one, we're going to start with the reinforced stitch. which is the zigzag at 0.4 and 2 for stitch width. You go right on the edge. We go to our straight stitch. And then back to the reinforced stitch. And cut. Same thing for the other side. We fold it over and stitch. Make sure you do not sew the bottom. Next, we zigzag the Velcro on with just a standard zigzag stitch. This is extremely complicated with a camera. Pin, count to 3 and throw. Same thing for the other one. All right, what we have here is a mark that is exactly opposite of this right here. We fold over at the seam, we put a mark. That's exactly what lines up with this. So what we need to do is turn this inside out. I should probably pin that just so it stays out of the way. So take a straight pin, go to the top, pin it out of the way. Flip this inside out. We're going to line up this edge here with this seam, or I mean this mark. So just like that. Okay? Pin it all the way around. Just work our way around. Pin. Once we're done, we're going to do a 1/2 inch seam and our zigzag all the way around. So in the end, it should just look like this. Do one stitch, zigzag, we flip it out, and we do our top stitching. Again, we'll show you on the other sleeve. First thing we do, find our seam, fold it in half. Put a mark. All right, with a fresh battery, this is the arm with the pocket. Fold it in half, so the seam is on one side, and put a mark. We take this one. This is the one with the flap, if it's on the arm, with the flap going to the left. Turn it inside out, and and line up the seam with this mark here. Pin it in place. And then just work your way around, take your time, put a pin every inch or so. I tend to do a little on one side, go do a little on the other side, keep going and meet in the middle. All right, now we sew this 1/2 inch zigzag. Before we go any further, we're going to want to trim off all of these little dangly bits hanging out. Okay, all I've done is turned it right side out and pinned it so the excess is going towards the cuff. That way when we put our top stitch in, locks everything in place. We'll start with our standard 1 mil from the edge, riding the fabric along the... Pull the pins as we go. That doesn't sound good. What is that? That would be excess fabric, excess thread on my bottom. My bobbin does not feel like being a bobbin today. So let's try that again. Back to where we were. We're of course going to trim off all these extra threads anyway, so it doesn't really matter. One sleeve done, one sleeve to go. And with that, we're done. So there you have it. Bridge crew, X-Wing pilot, TIE pilot, gunner. It's all right there. At least it starts right there. It's not a difficult build. It's just time consuming. Take your time, do it right, you'll be fine. You can do this. Go build a jumpsuit.